Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. It's Friday night. Jack is gone. Judah's asleep, and I am having some mom time. I clearly need to wash my hair. I just did my eyebrows recently. Did it myself. That part doesn't grow in as much, but I am proud. But yeah, so recently there's just been a lot of talk online after the whole Prince Harry and Meghan Markle interview and all the stuff with Piers Morgan about free speech and cancel culture, and I have thoughts, and so I wanted to kind of take you with me while I do my Friday night self-care and to share a little bit of that. So yeah. So, finished washing my hair. It took entirely too long. Now I have to heat up my hot head so I can deep condition. So while I'm waiting for this to heat up, can I just say that I loathe when free speech is brought up in conversations about cancel culture, or, you know, people not liking what someone has to say. Like, I don't want to believe that people genuinely don't know how it works, but the alternative is they do know how it works and they're just bringing it up to be ridiculous. And so for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to run over that really quickly because it's annoying and it needs to stop yesterday. So without getting too into it, and to keep it simple for the folks at home, free speech is never at issue unless the government is telling you what you can and cannot say. If Facebook kicked you off of it, or Twitter deletes your account, or you post something and a bunch of people say, oh, you suck, and they all block you, none of that has anything to do with free speech. In any other instance, be it a corporation, a person, a social media platform, whatever, it's fully within their right to not give you a platform, or not give you a seat at the table to say whatever it is that you want to say. You are not entitled to a seat at the table. You're not entitled to a platform. If people think your opinions suck and they don't want to listen to you, they don't have to. And that's something that I feel like we just need to get over. Just a sense of entitlement. It's infuriating. And I feel like when people bring up free speech in those contexts, it's not because you actually care about free speech. It's because you're invoking something that you either don't understand or do understand, and you know that people who are not you, who may be less educated or whatever else, they don't necessarily understand. You're bringing it up to sound like you're, standing in defense of some higher, grander purpose or something like that, and it's bigger than this person. I may not like what they have to say, I may not agree with them, but I agree with their or I want to protect their right to free speech. You know good and well that free speech has absolutely nothing to do with any of that, but you're saying it because it allows you to justify your agreement with this person, without sounding like you are co-signing something that people obviously find to be offensive or inflammatory. And so right now I'm calling BS. We know, or if people don't know, they should know, that free speech has nothing to do with it, and you're only saying that because you're disingenuous and you want to be in support of someone who has something inflammatory or offensive to say without specifically co-signing whatever it is that has everybody's panties in a bunch. And so yeah, stop doing that, please. Just own it. If you agree with someone being racist or bigoted or intolerant or whatever else, just own it. But please, please, please stop bringing up free speech, because it's completely irrelevant. And that's not what you're protecting. You're not protecting free speech. You just want someone to be able to be a bigot or offensive or ignorant without consequence. And unfortunately, that's not how this works. It's not how it's ever worked. And if anyone should know that, it's conservatives, specifically conservative Christians, but conservatives as a whole. Like, you guys created cancel culture, and the rest of us have been marginalized by it forever. And the reality is not that cancel culture, the reality is not that you really think cancel culture is a bad thing. The reality is that cancel culture is no longer working for you. Cancel culture, I use that loosely, by the way, but cancel culture is no longer working for you because you don't have the social capital anymore to make it work for you. And that's the only reason why you're really butthurt about any of this. So here I am, deep conditioning with heat right now. Shout out to Hot Head. So what do I mean when I say that Christians created cancel culture? So I actually thought about it. I knew this, but I didn't really think about it until I saw it on Twitter. And basically, I agree with that 100%. I was raised in a very conservative Christian community, and there was a ton of stuff that I was not allowed to watch, not allowed to listen to, things I wasn't allowed to eat, things I wasn't allowed to wear, because those things were considered to be wrong. They were unrighteous. They were not representative of Christianity and what I was supposed to believe, all of that stuff. And I think if you just look at American history and conservatism and how Christianity has had an impact on American culture, the American legal system, and just this idea that there's only one right way to live, and anything that does not fit into that box is kind of like pushed to the fringes. And even to this day, like, abortion is supposed to be about, reproductive rights and a woman's right to privacy as it pertains to her body. Same with gay marriage. Like, who you sleep with and who you spend your time with is supposed to be a private thing. And so who is the government or anyone else to tell you that you are not allowed to have a relationship with another consenting adult just because they don't necessarily think it is right or virtuous or whatever else. And what's ironic about the whole thing is that conservatives feel justified in seeking governmental backing in looking to infringe upon other people's rights based on what they believe is right versus wrong. But they're somehow whining and complaining if someone says, I don't like what you have to say, and I feel like there should be consequences if you are spreading hatred, intolerance, bigotry, whatever else. The government, obviously, because of freedom of speech, it's extremely limited in terms of what it can restrict people from saying. But society has always, kind of been the deciding factor in terms of how people are treated, and conservatives have used that to their advantage. When Black people were trying to fight Jim Crow and fight segregation and exercise their right to vote, rights that were theirs under the Constitution, they got beaten and sprayed with fire hoses and had dogs sicked on them, and people were lynched, and they experienced police brutality and all this other stuff for expressing themselves. They weren't attacking anyone. They weren't coming with guns. These people are marching, peacefully protesting, and being harassed or experiencing all kinds of violence just for wanting to be treated as more than second-class citizens. And so it's baffling to me how there's still elements of that linger. And the only difference now is that there's more people who are willing to speak out and say, hey, this stuff isn't okay. And the only reason why that stuff isn't continuing, the only reason why rape culture is being called to the forefront, colorism, white privilege, sexism and misogyny, and, you know, LGBTQ rights, all this stuff. The only reason why all that stuff is being brought to the forefront is because all of these people have been pushed to the fringes for so long. And there's enough people now, thanks to the fact that we are more connected, we do have more access to information, who are willing to stand up and say, hey, this is BS, this is crazy, this isn't okay, and there needs to be consequences for this stuff. Otherwise, you know, if we don't de-incentivize people from doing it, then they're, you know, going to keep marginalizing and being bigoted and being intolerant and ignorant and whatever else. And what's crazy to me is that cancel culture is people, this idea of cancel culture comes from people who take issue with all of this negativity now being marginalized. You no longer have the social capital to get away with racism and bigotry and misogyny, and being rapey and whatever else. And so that's an issue. You have a problem with these behaviors that you benefited from, even if you were not overtly or intentionally looking to do that. You benefited from it, and now that you no longer have the social capital to benefit from those things, you somehow think that that's a problem. And it's a problem that the tide has shifted, and the negativity is what's being marginalized. Because the reality is that even though we socially may have the power to, you know, influence brands and, you know, television stations or social media platforms, to encourage them to enforce these restrictions or whatever else, we don't have the social capital from a governmental standpoint to, you know, really enforce anything from that level. We're not passing any constitutional amendments. We can barely get bills for stimulus relief passed, let alone, you know, laws that are restricting freedom of speech or hate speech or anything like that. Like, people are still, you know, very much so fighting for just their fundamental rights. As a woman, I'm fighting for my right to reproductive freedom. LGBTQ, members of the LGBTQ community are still fighting for, you know, their right to be treated as full-blown citizens rather than second-class citizens. Transgender rights are still an issue, and it's an area that is still widely misunderstood. Women are still fighting for equality. Minorities, people of color, Black people are still fighting to be treated the same as everyone else. And so it's just amazing to me that we don't even have the power to be as much of a disruption to the things that are being done away with. We don't even have the social capital to be as much of a disruption to bigotry and intolerance and all those other things, as those things have been a disruption for us. But even speaking out against it, or, you know, saying this is an opinion I don't necessarily want to hear, is a problem. And that, it's just mind-blowing to me. And I get it, because like, I've had people just even in my own life feel like they are entitled to have access to me. They feel like they are entitled to have certain conversations with me and to express their opinions. And they get really offended when they find out that there are certain conversations I don't care to have with certain people. And more often than not, I don't care what a person thinks. And so I'm not giving you a seat at my table, because I don't have to. If you are not adding value, if you, you know, you have an opinion, but I don't necessarily think that opinion is well developed, or I don't see any value in listening to it, the reality is that I don't have to. And you know, you can say all kinds of stuff. You can say, oh, well, you only want to listen to people that agree with you, or, you know, I care about you, and so I should be able to have access to you, and that I should be able to have a conversation with you, whatever else. But no, that's not how it works. There are plenty of people who disagree with me, who I enjoy having conversations with, because those conversations add value. If I don't think that you are someone who adds value, like, tough cookies, but that's my opinion. That's freedom of expression, works both ways. You have a right to say something, and the next person has a right to not want to hear what you have to say. Or if they do take the time to listen to what you have to say, they don't have to agree with it. And for me, that's times two. If you're saying something that you know is unpopular or inflammatory, you're coming with the smoke. Like, don't be surprised when people respond with smoke. Like, and if you don't want the smoke, don't say anything that's going to have somebody want to come at you sideways. Like, for me, I know, just as someone who has privilege, who has struggled in the past to come to terms with that, someone who, like I said, comes from a very conservative environment, who has been vocal for an extended period of time, just in disagreement with certain things. I understand, you know, that it can be scary and frustrating to have something that you want to say and have people jump down your throat for saying it. But something that I had to come to terms with, that I think anyone who has an unpopular opinion needs to come to terms with, is the fact that, you know, if you put it out there and you're saying it, then, like I said, expression works both ways, and people have a right to disagree. And if you're putting something out there in a public forum, and people have the opportunity to respond, then you have to be prepared for that. And so for me, it's like, if I say something and people respond a certain way, and I feel like I need to get fired right back, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. And it's not, you know, because I'm offended or, you know, whatever else. It's just like, I know that that comes with the territory. And so I feel like, if nothing else, if you're going to be inflammatory, take what comes with the territory of that. Otherwise, don't come at people sideways. And if you do come at someone sideways and people don't respond well to it, and you feel a way about that, it shouldn't be a conversation. It shouldn't be a, oh, well, I have free speech, and so because of free speech, you're not, even though I said something that's offensive to you or, you know, inflammatory to you, you're not allowed to be inflammatory or offensive back to me. Like, no, if you feel that badly about how people are reacting to something that you've said, in my opinion, that probably means that it's something that you shouldn't have said, and you just need to own that and apologize for it. Otherwise, own it. And, you know, like, that doesn't make you any less trash, if it is a trash opinion. But at least, you know, you're owning it and you're taking responsibility for it. And because that is the responsibility that comes with freedom. You do have the right to say whatever you want for the most part, but so does everyone else. And like I said, the reality is just that bigotry and ignorance and intolerance and hatred is being marginalized. And it may be an overcorrection to some extent, but again, that comes with the territory. When you push tons of different people to the fringes for so long and mistreat them and abuse them, and take them for granted, when they are finally able to push back and say, like, no, this is who I am, I'm taking up space and there's nothing you can do about it, you have to expect that people are going to be more sensitive to people who have been marginalized, are going to be more sensitive to that marginalization, and they're not going to be, you know, holding punches against people who either have perpetuated their marginalization and the abuse, or who have benefited from it, or who, in this, you know, day and age where you have access to information, there's no excuse to be ignorant about any of these major social issues. If you're continuing to choose to be ignorant, I mean, you do have a platform and you do have people who listen to you, and you say something that is uninformed or ignorant or bigoted or whatever else, whether or not you see it. as that. If that's what you do, you can't be mad that people react negatively to it. Like, again, it comes with the territory. If you, like I said, if you have that platform and you're not willing to do the work to inform yourself, you're sitting on, a national broadcast asking, how is this racist? Like, that's on you. If you say something racist that everyone else understands is racist, and you don't understand why it's racist because you haven't done the work to figure out why it's racist, and you're articulating that and then centering yourself as a victim because you said something racist or you supported something racist, and now people are labeling you as a racist, and you care more about being labeled a racist than you care about actually not being one, then like, what do you expect? And it goes back to that entitlement and the lack of self-awareness. Like, get over yourself. If this is who you are, own it. Be a bigot, be intolerant, own it. Say, this is what I am, this is what I think, and this is what I'm gonna do. And if you don't like it, oh well. But if that's not who you want to be, then you need to be willing to take the time to consider what it is that you're doing to present in a way that is coming off that way to people. Because there's conversations that can be had about, hurt people hurting people, and the ways in which people have been marginalized should take the high road or whatever else. But I don't think people who, as I said, either have benefited from an unfair system or who perpetuate an unfair system because of their ignorance, I don't think it is prudent or fair or whatever you want to call it, for those people to center themselves as victims and try to tell the next person what they should or should not be doing. It's not your place to tell someone who has been marginalized that they need to take the high road when you are insisting on persisting in your harmful, damaging perspectives and behaviors, which again is entirely your right to do, but understand that you reap what you sow. And if you are sowing seeds of bigotry and intolerance, you can't be surprised or expect other people to be better than whatever energy it is that you're putting out into the world. And so, yeah, like, if you are not a racist, if you are not a bigot, if you are not an intolerant person, if you're not ignorant, then don't act like it. And if someone is coming to you and saying, like, this opinion is trash, instead of being offended by someone saying that your opinion is trash, take the time to consider the possibility that what you think isn't accurate, and do the work, so that, like I said, if nothing else, you can be settled enough in yourself and what you think and what you believe, so that if it is challenged or people do push back, you're able to stand on your own 2 feet. Because I think that that's the difference. People who, if nothing else, are confident in where they're at, even if they're wrong, then they're not going to back down. They're not going to run away. They're not going to, go and cry about free speech and cancel culture and someone trying to hold them accountable, because they're taking ownership of what they said and what they believe. And if you are not able to do that, you're not able to stand firmly in the things that you say, and the way that you carry yourself, and that is being perceived in a way that you don't want to be perceived, and you're offended by being perceived in a way that you don't think is applicable to you, then don't make an adjustment, do something different. Prioritize not being all of these negative things that people are perceiving you as, and don't make excuses. Like I said, either own it or change it. Because the court of public opinion is what it is. And right now, the reality is that people who are ignorant and bigoted and intolerant, they just don't have the same social capital that they used to. And there's going to be consequences. And if you have a problem with there being consequences, for being negative, or being hurtful or harmful or offensive to people who have already been through so much. I really don't understand how you can expect someone to not view that as a character flaw. And I think you need to do some reevaluating for sure. So my hair is rinsed, and I have leave-in conditioner and a cap to like help my hair absorb it. I need to exfoliate, do some stuff with my face. I had like some breakouts, but they're healing and it's getting better if I can stop picking with stuff. So I need to exfoliate, do some kind of mask, nair my legs. Oh God, like, self-care is important, and I think for me, there was always just like a certain standard of being that I was used to before I got married and had a child. And so I just don't feel like myself when I'm not at my best. And so even though it's like a ton of work, it's really late. Like I don't have time to do a lot of this stuff during the day. And so it's like a mad dash late at night to try to get whatever I can done. But yeah, it's just like, I need it to feel like myself. Otherwise, like, yeah. So it's late, but so I gotta nair my legs, do stuff to my face, and then do my nails real quick before I go to bed. But progress, we're making progress. It's the other thing, like, I've been wanting to do my nails, but I can't do my nails until my hair is washed because it just feels like a waste. So yeah, it's coming along, we're getting there. So I'm exfoliating, masking, nairing, doing all of that. And I also gotta finish out this braid out. This stuff is good stuff right here, this snot. I like that. And this stuff is cool too. And this is my leave-in for anybody who is interested. This is some good stuff. I'm gonna eventually switch like all my products to TGIN. But it's been a slow transition, but this stuff is really good. Don't mind me just sanitizing my micro needler thingy in a shop class. That is how I roll. Mask number 1. Indulging in some nostalgia in the interim while I'm waiting on this mask. Did you watch Degrassi in high school, or were you lame? Let me know in the comments. This is definitely one of my favorite shows from high school, of all time, easily. Mask number 2. This is love. This is marriage. Donuts. Can't forget to exfoliate. I don't know if this is like good or whatever, but I like it. It works pretty well. So I've naired and exfoliated. I still need to moisturize, microneedle my face, and put on like my serums and stuff before I go to bed. I am drying my hair with a t-shirt. I've put in my cream and my gel for my braid out, and so that is, I'm just trying to dry it a little bit before I go to sleep. And then I'm gonna do my nails and go to sleep soon, hopefully. Yeah. So I'm finally ready to sew. My hair has been dried, my little scarf is on. I'm gonna do my nails, really quickly, and then go to sleep. But before I go, I just wanted to take a second to talk really briefly about self-care, particularly for moms. Today, self-care for me looks like Degrassi and donuts and like facials and exfoliation and moisturizing and nails and, you know, basically just trying to like conjure up these bad bee vibes real quick. But some days it looks like sleep. Other days it looks like reading some of my favorite books from when I was younger, just because reading those books makes me feel like Kara, not Jack's wife or Judah's mom, but just Kara, just like myself. And other days it's playing The Sims. Some days it's having conversations with people about topics that I'm passionate about. But collectively, I think it's just doing things that make me feel like me and being intentional about taking time to do those things. Sometimes it may mean being up a little later than I would like to be, or, you know, asking for help either from Jack or like my family or my friends. But overall, I think it's just being intentional about taking time to do things that make you feel like you and help you just feel centered and grounded in who you are, as opposed to getting caught up in your roles and kind of like losing sight of the person that you are and the person you're trying to become and all that stuff. And I think especially moms need that. And I mean, I think all people need to indulge in some self-care. But I think especially moms, wives, women who wear a lot of hats, it can be easy just to kind of like lose yourself. And so to the extent that you can be mindful to do things that make you feel like you, I definitely think you should, because you deserve this. So I'm gonna do these nails and then I'm gonna go to sleep. And I will see y'all tomorrow. Good night. So it's morning, well, afternoon. We definitely slept in a little bit today. My hair is still a little bit wet, but it no longer looks psychotic. My nails are done. And I am dressed in real people clothes today. I have jeans on instead of lounge clothes. So yeah, I feel good. I hope you enjoyed my little self-care evening, and hope you learned something about free speech and cancel culture if you didn't already know it. If you have any ideas about anything else you want to talk about or any questions, please let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.